Welcome back.
Yo, base guru, nice job. Yo, base guru.
Welcome back.
Hey, what's up, man? Do you have to go to work again today? Alright, let's make sure that the things are connecting. It sure is taking its time. All back to normal, yep. Interesting. Some stuff acting real dumb. Okay, that's good. That one's good. That one's good. Interesting. Yo, we can talk. Thanks for the like. How are you doing? Good to see you. Welcome in. Welcome in. Okay, that seems to be all functional. What's up? Welcome in, everybody. Oh, we hit the hydrant. Playing on the clock. We stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 a.m. Oh, thank you for that hydrate. Let's go. All right. Well, everyone is here. Welcome in, everybody. Good to see you. Wherever you're watching from, we're hitting some extra channels today. We're going to experiment with a lot of different things going on. But I appreciate you being here nonetheless. I hope you're having a fantastic Monday. We got game news to talk about this morning. A few different things going on. A lot of disappointing news today. It's a kind of a disappointing Friday. So I guess it's good we're going into the weekend. Maybe we'll get some good news over the weekend. Need coffee weekend? Yeah, dude, I feel ya. I'm hitting mine right now. But welcome in. Go get your coffee and get ready for some game news discussion action. How's everybody's week been? We're finally mostly thawed out. Schools and stuff are still closed because I think there are a bunch of roads that are still icy. But yeah, overall, we should be back to normal unless it refreezes this weekend, and then we'll just be right back to where we started, I guess. But it is good to see everyone here. It's good to see my mom in chat, Denalid, Weekend, Base Guru. Sorry, I'm just trying to get stuff together. But yeah, we've also got quite a bit going on today after the stream. We've got the gaming roundtable, which we'll plug again at the end of the show, and then we've also got tonight a special collab stream with a bunch of streamers. We're going to be doing an archipelago setup. That's where it's so interesting. We all play different games that are connected to this server, and they my progress helps other players. Like, I'm finding items and abilities for other players, and so it's pretty interesting. I got it set up. I'm going to be doing a Kingdom Hearts 2 randomizer, which I've never done before, so I'm very much looking forward to how that's going to work. But it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's going to be a fun time. We got a bunch of people involved. I want to say at least 5 or 6 fellow streamers. We've done Peak together before. We've done a few other games. And so I think it's going to be a good turnout for this particular setup. It's so cool. Like, we're all going to be playing completely different games, but our progress helps one another. And so it's going to be very interesting to track and see how that works. But anyway, all right, well, let's jump into some game news and talk about, well, dang, news mode was already enabled.
Welcome back.
My lights are on. Is my camera really dark? Let's see, I can fix it real quick. I've been having weird issues with the webcam randomly being too bright and too dark, so I was trying to work on it last night, and I guess I made it a little too dark. Let's see. How is that? Is that better? It's a little higher than I would like it. We're trying to be mysterious. I am mysterious. Mysteriously hilarious. There, is that better? Chat has spoken. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, anyway, now we got that fixed. Make sure the channel points are not doing anything. We were getting noises earlier. We shouldn't have been. Interesting. There they go. Okay. Let's get to it. All right. Yep. We're ready to start now. Okay. All right. Well, what's up on our first topic? What was I trying to say? I don't even know. We got Helldivers reportedly surpassed 20 million copies sold. The only reason I mentioned this Helldivers 2 specifically, not Helldivers 1. According to a new report, Helldivers 2 has crossed 20 million copies and sold and brought in $700 million in revenue. Helldivers 2 has emerged as one of the most inspiring success stories in the gaming industry recently. Its success has influenced other games, such as ARC Raiders, to abandon a free-to-play model in favor of a reasonably priced one. This approach has made a significant impact and has seemingly contributed to reaching a major milestone. So 20 million copies and 700 million in revenue is no small thing to look at. I really think, Steam is probably the largest player base, followed by PlayStation, and then Xbox. But those Xbox players really helped push the numbers up, and it was just extra revenue for them. And I think that's super important to consider. Hopefully, Sony looks at this and goes, "Hey, it may have not been blockbuster numbers, but it was more sales on a game that had already been kind of fully saturated on our own console. So maybe let's tap into others and see how well it works." And so from that perspective, I really hope Sony starts considering the Xbox a platform to release onto, which we have a lot to talk about with Xbox today. But I think stuff like that would help, Sales figures for various platforms have been announced, with Steam continuing to dominate the market. Steam alone sold 13.1 million copies. PlayStation accounted for an additional 5.6 million. Notably, the Xbox launch was faster selling during the first 8 days than the PlayStation launch. Additionally, China played a significant role in boosting Steam sales, with 10% of Steam players coming from the country. Notice that we don't have the Xbox numbers, right? In other news, the developers of Helldivers 2 have spoken about extending vehicle gameplay. Additionally, Arrowhead has talked about working on a roguelite mode for the title. I really want to play again. I would have to resubscribe to Xbox Live or Xbox Game Pass, the $10 tier, to be able to play again. But I really want to. It's such a fun game, and I really enjoyed my time with it. But I would need to commit to playing with people before I just jump in on it. I would have to commit to playing with people, and that's harder to do these days than I would like to admit. But anyway, congrats to Arrowhead and the Helldivers 2 community for being awesome. Let's move on. I thought this was interesting. PlayStation Portal OLED version coming this year. Surprising, Sony's planning to release a new model of its PlayStation Portal streaming device with an upgraded OLED screen, according to latest online speculation. Via Kepler L2, who has shared various reports in the past, Sony is apparently looking to put a PS Portal OLED version later this year. It's not stated whether there'll be any other upgrades for the PS5 accessory to go alongside the enhanced screen. Should the claim prove true, it will build on the base version, which has been a big success for Sony, which is very surprising. Having repeatedly spoken of how the device exceeded the company's expectations, the latest estimates in the US have 7% of PS5 players also owning a PlayStation Portal. I've considered getting one because it now supports cloud streaming, and that would make it much more useful. But it would be a cloud streamer only device. Is that worth it? I don't know. I really don't know. But anyway, it's cool if it does come out. OLED would increase the battery life, which I think it already has really decent battery life, just because it's not really doing a whole lot other than like receiving a video feed and doing a decode. It's not having to natively render anything. So yeah, it's cool. I think an OLED version would make sense, and it would just look a lot sharper. They could probably do HDR and a few other nice features with an OLED display. So that's cool. If that happens, that would be neat. Thought this was interesting. Original Final Fantasy VII is re-releasing on Steam. A new announcement reveals that the original Final Fantasy VII is re-releasing on Steam, replacing the 2013 version. Nowadays, all we hear about Final Fantasy VII is the remake. Integrate has already been released for Switch 2 and Xbox, and Rebirth and Part 3 have been confirmed for both platforms. However, today we aren't talking about any of the remakes. Instead, we're talking about the original Final Fantasy VII title. According to a recent post on X, Square Enix has posted a new announcement on Steam regarding Final Fantasy VII's re-release. New version will rename the current version to Final Fantasy VII 2013 Edition. This version will no longer be available for purchase once the new version is released. Existing owners of the 2013 version don't need to do So I don't need to worry, as they will both retain access to the previous version and gain access to the new version at no additional cost. This means that players can have both versions in their library, but there's no save data compatibility between them. Players with the FF7 2013 save data only can only use it for the 2013 edition, and the same for the new release. Moreover, and this is where I don't understand, Square Enix has yet to provide a release date or an explanation for re-releasing Final Fantasy VII on Steam. From what I can see, there are no noticeable upgrades in this version. So, yeah, they really like, hey, we're doing a new version. The old version won't be available, and if you have the old version, you'll get the new version for free. That's very nice, but why? What is changed in this new version that you won't even talk about? You're just letting us know that a new version's coming. Like, that's weird. It's a little weird. It's very strange. But what is there to look forward to? I don't know. I don't know what's going to be different. It's odd that they would do that. All right, I thought this was kind of cool. Metal Gear Solid Snake is coming to Rainbow Six Siege as an operator. New data mines have revealed that Metal Gear Solid Snake will soon be making his way to Ubisoft's Rainbow Six Siege as an operator. The news, posted by the reputable Rainbow Six Siege data miner Shiny, will apparently be a part of Year 11 Season 1, which is scheduled to take place in March. Insider Gaming has also been able to independently verify that the leaks are legitimate. Solid Snake is the main protagonist from the Metal Gear Solid franchise by Konami, as if we don't know these things. At the time of this writing, Ubisoft has yet to officially announce the collaboration, but with Year 11 Season 1 scheduled to take place in March, we should hear an announcement soon. I just think it's kind of cool because now you can pit Solid Snake up against Sam Fisher in Rainbow Six. What a time to be alive, chat. What a time to be alive. I don't even know. I don't know what to make of that. It's so weird. I like gaming crossovers like this. At least it's not, Beavis and Butthead are coming to Rainbow Six Siege, right? I think everybody learned their lesson from Call of Duty's ridiculous inclusion of some very dumb skins. And I feel like the only platform that can get away with releasing absurd skins is Fortnite at this point. Everybody else is held to a different standard, but that's because we expect realism, right? Like we don't want ridiculous crossover skins that don't make sense. Solid Snake makes sense in Rainbow Six, at least loosely, right? So we'll take it. All right, let's go on. Next. All right, we got an update to the Nintendo Direct coming next week. We talked about this on Wednesday, and now it is Friday. The first full Direct of the year could be coming next week. Nate the Hate talked about update. Nate the Hate has reported the Direct will probably be a partner Direct, meaning it's focused on third-party titles. So if it's a partner Direct, that means no Nintendo announcements, but some good third-party announcements, hopefully. My hope is that we see a bunch of new third-party titles for the Switch 2 specifically, but they probably will be doing a lot of Switch 1 and 2 crossover, cross-gen releases. It just really depends. That's just crazy. I don't know why I said... Anyway, I was reading chat. Anyway, catching up on chat. Anywho. Nintendo Directs are usually a great time. The partner Directs get a little scrutiny, right? Like, people usually look at that and go, there's nothing going to be shown. I think we'll get another look at Dusk Bloods, probably. I don't know. I feel like that might be part of a main Direct. But I would hope to see a good third-party showing at a January, February. Well, it's going to be February by the time that happens. But a February partner Direct in 2026. Hopefully is more Switch 2 focused. I think that would be fantastic. I would enjoy it. Even if the games are lame, at least we know what's coming from the third-party standpoint. And, Nintendo isn't going to hype up. Well, they will hype up some weird. It'll be farm sims. That's it. Prediction in. It's just going to be farm sims. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, I covered this via YouTube Shorts and in-game news. Nintendo responds to leaked Nintendo Switch Online GameCube games. So we got that leak from Walmart. Nintendo actually gave out the graphic. And their official response is, we recently provided a retailer with an image of Nintendo GameCube Nintendo Classics titles that incorrectly included games that are not planned for release at this time. Nintendo of America said the image has been removed and we apologize for any confusion. So at this time could mean, not soon, but maybe later, right? But it could also mean not soon, but next month when we have a big old Nintendo Direct for you. It really could mean anything. The fact that they included them in the graphic, I think they're coming out this year, whether or not Nintendo wants to admit it. Why would they include those in the graphic? Like, somebody signed off on that. Several layers of approval were had at Nintendo. So I just think they were trying to get ahead of the image being leaked out a little early. But anytime you see something like that hit retailer websites and advertising space, just know that went through a lot of approvals before it got shipped to the advertiser, before it even went to print, because printing ain't cheap. And so somebody went, oops, and then several somebodies didn't catch it. So I still think there's a chance these are coming. Just maybe not in the first half of the year. It really depends. But I don't think it's happening in the first half of the year. It'd be great if they did. I'd love more GameCube games to drop with more frequency. But, maybe they're just taking their time with it because it's still new. Anyway. All right. Time for our big story. This is tough to read because it's numbers. No, I'm just kidding. Xbox revenue plummets, and Microsoft's own first-party lineup is the culprit, raising tough questions for 2026. But PC and cloud is up. So this is on Windows Central. Michael Hogland writes, as the Xbox brand continues its decline in overall revenue, Amy Hood attributes it to first-party content. Those darn first-party games are bread and butter. So Xbox's Q2 fiscal year 26 earnings reveal a problem. Microsoft can't pin on hardware, subscriptions, or macro trends this time. Revenue dipped, and the company pointed directly at its own first-party lineup as the reason. A rare acknowledgement that the content pipeline meant to define the platform simply didn't deliver enough momentum this quarter. It's a momentum that puts Xbox's long-term strategy under the microscope, especially as the industry leans harder than ever on exclusive hits to drive engagement. So it's I could tell Xbox revenue was down as Satya closed it on his opening gaming content statement with, "We saw record PC players in paid streaming." That is such a stretch to find a highlight that I had to listen back to it a couple of times to make sure I heard it right. So here's the kicker. Gaming revenue dropped 9%. Xbox hardware revenue dropped 32%. It dropped 32%. People are not buying Xboxes so much that they actually dropped 32% from last year's bad numbers. And then Xbox content and services revenue down 5%. I think a lot of this number is thanks to everything's an Xbox. Why would I buy a new Xbox if my PlayStation is also an Xbox? Or if my TV is an Xbox? Why am I buying hardware? Because gaming revenue and content and services only being down 5 and 9%, not a big deal, in my mind. Now, it is a big deal overall. This is the second quarter, I think, in a row that things have dropped. This is the second holiday season in a row that hardware revenue has dipped pretty hard. So that's the Q2 coverage. Now, some may think changes to Game Pass are to blame, but when listening to the webcast, Microsoft CFO Amy Hood said that Microsoft expects Game Pass revenue to grow in Q3, not decrease. That would seem rather nuts if Game Pass were the cause of the current drops in revenue. In the same breath, Amy Hood mentioned they expect Xbox hardware to drop again in Q3, which they hope will be offset by potential growth from Game Pass. Either way, the Xbox brand seems to be suffering overall, and the once proud console is expected to drop further. So, I position that the increase in Game Pass price maybe didn't lead to a significant decrease in subscriptions. Namely because you could just buy a cheaper tier instead of just unsubscribing. However, what is likely happening is lower engagement if you've canceled completely or just dropped down a couple of tiers to the $10 a month or the $20 a month. Whatever the lower tiers cost. If you drop down to those, you don't get day one day and date games. And so you're kind of stuck playing with whatever's available to you. And you're not playing Call of Duty, so you're not buying, the season passes and stuff for Call of Duty multiplayer unless you're just an avid Warzone enjoyer, which is fine. But even then, are you buying the battle pass? Probably not. I don't know. I feel like everything with this latest Call of Duty release was terrible, and that drove people away. So there's a lot at play here that's pushing people further out from committing to like buying and staying on Xbox. There's a lot going on. But mostly it's everything's getting more expensive, and Xbox seems to want to be the most expensive. I don't fully understand that line of thought, but that's what it looks like on paper. Amy Hood would go on to blame the downtrend of gaming revenue on first-party games. Gaming revenue was below expectations, driven by first-party content with impact across the platform. Quarter 2 was from October 1st to December 31st, 2025. There were 4 games that were released during that time period: Ninja Gaiden 4, Keeper, Outer Worlds 2, and the ever-so-bloated Call of Duty Black Ops 7. I can guarantee you, Ninja Gaiden 4 appeals to a certain group of players. It's not going to appeal. It doesn't have mass market appeal. Keeper, again, is an artsy-fartsy Double Fine game. People aren't running to the stores to pick that one up. Outer Worlds 2 had a kind of disappointing launch, which surprised me, because the first one did fairly well. Otherwise, the sequel wouldn't have been greenlit, I feel like. And then Black Ops 7, just atrocious launch and atrocious game. Like, what were they thinking? In fact, I don't think they were thinking. Nobody expected games like Ninja Gaiden and Keeper to carry the majority of revenue during that quarter. If anything, the only game that Microsoft and Xbox expected to be a slam dunk is Call of Duty. With recent news that Black Ops 7 saw drastic sales decreases, it's no surprise that revenue is down by so much. Call of Duty, even with its release later in the year, generally manages to grab the top spot in gaming. This year, Black Ops 7 trailed behind 4 other titles: Monster Hunter Wilds, Borderlands 4, NBA 2K26, and Battlefield 6. So it just released after all this other stuff, which Battlefield is probably its biggest competition as far as like similar games, similar player bases. I don't think Monster Hunter or Borderlands are really competition for Call of Duty, but maybe. The article goes on to say, clearly Xbox is headed in a direction that's very different from what we've seen in years past. The complete and total abandonment of exclusives, for example, has taken away a large portion of the game's population's reason to buy an Xbox console in the first place, which is what we've been saying since they've started putting stuff on PlayStation. Then, thanks to the ongoing tariffs and the ever-increasing price of years-old hardware, the console's cost is at a record high, far above its starting MSRP. Stacked against the competition, Microsoft has the priciest entry point. The Series S costs a staggering $399, while the PS5 Digital Edition is priced the same with staggeringly higher performance, which is what most people are going to look at right now, is what am I getting with a Digital Edition PS5 versus the Series S. And yeah, I totally would choose the PlayStation with only those two options, with those two being the cheapest options. So for a lot of people, those are the only options. Plus, you can upgrade the Digital Edition later to play physical games, whereas with the Xbox, you cannot. The Series S is always going to be digital only. On top of it all, Xbox decided it would be a terrific time to take the best deal in gaming and raise the price by a staggering 50%, given the ongoing technological climate. So how in the world does Xbox or Microsoft plan to turn this ship around? Looking at the current situation, I don't see any way out of this current predicament. They've managed to alienate many Xbox fans without giving anything in return to those who've been a part of the platform for so long. Sure, making games more accessible for everyone is a good thing, but it doesn't give a reason to invest in a console that seems hell-bent on making sure there isn't a reason to buy it. And that's been like kind of the kicker. This whole paragraph sums it all up. They squandered the goodwill they built up with the Series X and S launch, and kind of redirecting the Xbox brand away from what the Xbox One stood for and tried to, push on everybody, while at the same time still doing the things that made us not like the Xbox One, right? We've got almost totally digital marketplace now. Very few physical games. A lot of places have pulled their physical game stock or shrunk it down significantly because they just aren't selling as much. We've got, more and more games coming out digital only. We've got rumors that the biggest game of like the decade, of probably the last 2 decades, GTA 6 possibly launching digital only with a physical release weeks after the like day and date launch of the game. You're just looking at how this is all set up, and Xbox is ahead of the curve in some ways. It ahead in a way we didn't like. On top of the Force Connect and everything the Xbox One launched as hurt everybody's trust in the brand, and those that jumped ship to PlayStation 4 were really treated very well by Sony. And now with the PS5, it's like, okay, cool. It's a great system. I like Xbox. It's still my primary platform. But I find myself grabbing my Switch to playing on PC or playing on my PS5 just all the more lately. And it's because every time I turn on that Xbox, I'm reminded, oh yeah, I don't have Game Pass anymore. Oh yeah, the games I have, I still play, but I have newer stuff that I want to play on other hardware. Or I have stuff I haven't played yet on other hardware. And I can't be the only one with that sentiment. I mean, other people feel that way. Maybe with the ever-growing reliance on Xbox Play Anywhere, we'll manage to see the next Xbox console that's rumored to feature a Windows-like environment alongside Steam integration take off. Then again, if it's anything close in price to the rumored Steam machine, or even a gaming PC with the current RAM prices, gamers can and already will be investing in those devices rather than anything Microsoft manages to push out, which is very true. Nobody's going to want to buy a stupid expensive Xbox PC if the Steam machine is cheaper or just better. And then a lot of us just like having our gaming PCs anyway. And I like building my stuff, so I'm going to keep doing that as long as it's, financially possible for me to keep doing that. Right now, with RAM the way it is, nope. No upgrades, no side grades. No, nothing for a little while. And that's okay. That's just where we are. But it's really a bummer to see this, like, just these numbers in front of us and just things plummet. And then they're going to go and blame their studios for not making games. It's like, you guys decided this launch lineup months ago. Years, a whole year in advance, I'm sure. This Q2 lineup. So, like, you guys set that schedule, and if you didn't think it was going to do well, that's all on you. It's just a shame to see. We also have a write-up from Jez Corden about the whole thing as well, because Microsoft loses a massive $440 billion in market cap as shares tank. Investors get increasingly skeptical of its AI strategy. Jez Corden put this out yesterday. Microsoft investors didn't enjoy the company's fiscal year 26 Q2 report, as fears of its AI strategy begin to unravel into despair. So a lot of this is due to, this drop here is due to AI. It's not just that revenue is down. It's that we're tired of the AI stuff. So Microsoft can now claim to have experienced the second largest single-day stock decline in history, wiping an absurd $440 billion in market value from the tech giant. The drop is only behind that of Nvidia from last year, who experienced a similarly deep shock when China's efficient DeepSeek AI model implied that you didn't need as much Nvidia tech to have a capable chatbot as previously thought. I work with AI stuff, and I'm tired of it too. Yeah, dude, kind of same. I want to use AI, but I don't want to. Dude, that's like the big thing. I don't mind using AI. I don't want an intrusive butler. I want a quiet, helper, a silent partner, or something along those lines. Not even a partner. Like, I want my drill to be my drill and my hammer to be my hammer, and my hammer and my drill don't talk to me. And if they started to, I might get frustrated. Whereas when I need to drill a hole in a wall or put a screw in a board, the drill does what I need it to do. I need AI to do what I tell it to do, and not all the extra junk that goes along with it. Okay, let's read on. Microsoft's share price dropped a whopping 5.37% today and is down almost 14% for the month of January 2026 so far. The stock continues its downward trajectory, which largely began this past summer. Now, year to date, Microsoft is down overall 2%, wiping out all the AI related gains it made over the past year. Microsoft stock revolves around a similar theme. It's all about artificial intelligence. Here's what's going on, and here's a nice little picture. Somebody pointed out this looked like a meme coin drop off on X, and it kind of does. This looks like what happens when they pump and dump, Dogecoin or whatever. All right. Speaking yesterday to investors, Microsoft announced what on paper seemed like pretty solid results. Call of Duty's having an off year, which drove Xbox down by 9%. Microsoft's entire computing segment is down by 3%, reflecting just how big Call of Duty is when it comes to Microsoft's consumer segment. The one off year can drag down the whole division, despite the fact that it said Xbox PC and Xbox Cloud Gaming were seeing record usage. Investors don't care too much about what Microsoft is doing with Windows and Xbox, though. So no, Call of Duty having an off year, even Windows 11 seeing a noticeable decline in quality, isn't really impacting the share price, which is fair. Xbox could be up 50% year over year, and it wouldn't have a meaningful impact on the stock. In fact, we saw this when Microsoft started factoring in Activision Blizzard into Xbox's earnings. Yeah, people weren't impressed. The stock revolves entirely around Azure, Microsoft's biggest division by far, but investors are growing increasingly weary about Satya Nadella's strategy surrounding Azure and artificial intelligence in particular. Azure grew by 39%, which sounds fantastic, but Wall Street apparently wanted more. Investors were also unimpressed by the future-facing statement of a further 37% growth. Cloud revenue surpassed $50 billion, atop a huge $81.3 billion annual revenue, up 17% year over year. Operating income was up 21% year over year, with a net of $38.5 billion. It's a lot of numbers, kind of boring. Microsoft 365 Copilot was up 160% year over year. Well, yes, because Copilot got a little more useful, but it also is being forced into being used, and some people don't know how to turn it off. GitHub Copilot was up 75% year over year. I have been using, I probably need to unsubscribe from it, but I have been using GitHub Copilot for some personal project stuff. It is very helpful. I like the integration into VS Code. As a developer, I kind of wish my other tools, like my actual work tools, work this way. It'd be much nicer to lean on, AI to help me debug and explain some things, or just double check my work. It's like a good pair programmer buddy, Hey, can you check that I didn't forget a semicolon, or did I spell this right, or does this logically work out? What more could investors possibly want, you might ask? Well, the explanation doesn't make a lot of sense to me either as a lowly pauper, but all of this still isn't enough. So the real reason the stock is down is because the growth doesn't reflect the capital expenditure Microsoft is committed to. Or Microsoft is committed to artificial intelligence and infrastructure surrounding it. Construction, in essence, and the risks therein. CapEx, that's capital expenditures, jumped almost 40 billion for the quarter, up around 70% year over year. So no, let's just read the summary, right? I'm tired of reading all of the details. Sorry, Jess. Call of Duty having an off year didn't wipe out multiple times its entire value in Microsoft stock. Obviously and hopefully. Agreed. Investors mainly care about Azure and AI and are growing uneasy about its strategy. I think AI is getting kind of a pushback in how it's being integrated into all the things. Microsoft's AI and cloud revenue is up massively, but it's not up at the kind of pace investors would like, given how much it's spending on data center infrastructure. So Microsoft is spending too much money, and the returns aren't as quick or aren't matching what the investments are so far. Investors worry Microsoft won't see real returns on its GPU investments before the chips need to be deprecated or replaced. Basically, they're buying hardware that's going to not last. Data centers require permits, construction fees, electricity, cooling, ongoing maintenance, and piles of custom silicon. Microsoft's CapEx is growing at an alarming rate and could burden margins if profitability doesn't arrive more quickly. Microsoft is aggressively betting on a future where AI becomes far, far more useful than it is today. The payoff could be unlike anything we've ever seen, but investors are skeptical. Investors are skeptical that the applications for Microsoft AI tech will actually scale to that degree. So, yeah, it's down to you guys are spending too much money on AI and it's not paying off in a way that we would like, and we don't see the roadmap that you guys clearly want us to see. And I'm kind of there. The AI bubble is bubbling real hard lately, and there's no way this bubble doesn't burst um, at some point. I can't predict the future. Maybe something happens and everybody loves AI all of a sudden. But I think by and large, the public sentiment is we're tired of AI slop being shoved in our faces in our social media feeds, in our advertising, in everything. Like everything we use, we see AI slop, and it's like I don't want to see it. Thing is, during Black Friday and Christmas, everyone else had sales. Microsoft did not. They've given up on hardware, moving to the cloud. Well, yeah, we talked about that. Also, welcome in, Hello Moto. But it's more that Microsoft's AI push is costing them way more money, and it does trickle down to affect Microsoft, especially with the revenue, the hardware revenue falling off. Obviously they don't think selling just hardware to consumers is the thing, um, but it is a part. It is a big piece of their traditionally was a big piece of their pie. Maybe not massive, but enough to keep making new iterations on the Xbox, and they keep investing in Surface hardware and all this other stuff. So it mattered to someone, and it made enough money at some point to justify keeping it on the books. But now with the shift to AI, it's like it kind of feels like the AI push is to force us to not have any hardware except a little dumb terminal that gets on the Wi-Fi and logs into Xbox Cloud and Windows Cloud, and everything's going to be a virtual machine. And I don't like that future. I want my stuff running locally on my own network. I don't want to have to log in to Microsoft services or Apple services or anybody. Like, that would be absurd. But yeah, it's really a bummer to see, because this is going to lead to job losses pretty quickly, and more layoffs. And that's not what I'm looking for. Speaking of layoffs and poor financial reports, Paradox Interactive reports 162% quarterly loss as Bloodlines 2 write-down hits hard. Paradox Interactive's fourth quarter showed a sharp swing in profits. Revenue increased 23% from last year to roughly $99 million, supported by sales from Age of Wonders 4, Cities Skylines 2, Crusader Kings 3, and new releases Europa Universalis 5 and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Even with higher revenue, however, the company reported an operating loss of about $28 million, which is a 162% drop compared to last year. The main reason is Bloodlines 2, which did not meet sales expectations. Paradox recorded write-downs and amortization of more than $77 million related to the game. That pushed the quarter from profitable to a significant loss. Profit after tax fell to approximately $22 million, down from around $34 million last year. Earnings per share also turned negative, reflecting the impact of the Bloodlines 2 accounting adjustments. Despite the hefty loss, Paradox remains financially stable. Cash flow from operations was about $56 million, and the company ended the quarter with roughly $151 million in cash. That gives it room to invest in future projects and manage ongoing operations. And I don't play much from Paradox Interactive, but just to see 162% quarterly loss is a big deal in one quarter. And I don't know. This is just kind of the gaming industry as a whole, right? This is where we are. Like, games aren't big investments aren't panning out well, and smaller, simpler games are doing very well. And that's why I think people flock to Arc Raiders. It made sense. That's why Helldivers 2 is so popular. It's a loop that makes sense. I don't know anything about Bloodlines 2. I don't know anything about it. It's not a game I've played. But what I will say is if it didn't meet expectations. It probably, you know, missed the mark in some big ways, and that's a shame. People worked on it. I don't want to see people like losing their jobs and studios shut down because they had one bad release. But I think that's where we are in the industry. One bad release could mean a studio shuts down, because giving Microsoft more control over PC is exactly what we want. No, exactly, dude. I don't want it. I don't want it at all. I'll switch to Linux, and everything I use for streams and everything will suffer a small amount. But anyway, all right, and then let's talk about losses some more. Meta's VR branch lost 19 billion last year. That's not that surprising. Meta has yet to justify why they keep making VR headsets without any good software to like back it up. Most people are playing free to play games as far as I can tell, and the paid for games just don't justify the cost. Oh man. I don't really want to read this article, to be honest. That Microsoft article was a lot. What's up, Brent? Good to see you. I got other stuff I want to talk about. But that's a big loss. But I think VR is struggling to justify its existence some most of the time. There's not a whole lot that's like a must-have game, a must-experience game. Nobody can name me something that doesn't just feel like a tech demo or a little mini game experience. Anyway, let's move on. And then Amazon Game Studios head Christoph Hartmann is leaving the company. Why does this matter? Well, we've lost a bunch of stuff from Amazon Studios recently, and now the head is out. Amazon's continued distance from traditional gaming has seemingly continued. I don't know if that sentence makes sense, but good try, Mike Straw, writing in a rush. According to a new report, the head of Amazon Game Studios is leaving the company. First reported by Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, Christoph Hartmann, Amazon Games vice president, is leaving after roughly 8 years. It's currently unknown where Hartmann is going or when he plans on wrapping up with the Seattle-based company. He's also yet to make any public comment on the matter as of this writing. Under Hartmann's leadership since 2018, Amazon Game Studios published games like Crucible, Lost Ark, New World, King of Meat, and others. Most recently, New World announced that it was set to go offline at the end of January 2027. Right now, the studio has 2 Tomb Raider games in development, along with a number of unannounced projects, though the status of those unannounced games remains unknown amid all the turnover. Schreier added that Hartmann's leaving comes as Amazon continues its retreat from the PC and console video game space in favor of its cloud gaming service Luna, which totally makes sense. Prior to joining Amazon, Hartmann spent 18 years with Take-Two Interactive. He even helped co-found 2K Games in the early 2000s after Take-Two acquired Visual Concepts. So it sounds like it's just moving on. Amazon Games has, obviously New World's being taken offline. I believe some other big projects were canceled in the last year or so at Amazon Games. Who knows what's going on over there? It just seems like it's time to jump ship. I think short-term investing is hurting the gaming industry in a big way, because game development, especially big like AAA titles, right, aren't a short-term investment, a short-term project. That's, you're looking at 5 to 6 years of just development and then fine-tuning for a single-player story-driven game. And then now, those short-term investors are like, hey, this isn't making money. I don't want to be involved anymore. Or the losses from a middling kind of, game that doesn't do great numbers, but it does sell. The losses are still there, and they're having a harder time justifying investing in new development of new IPs or new sequels, even if they're not going to be guaranteed bangers, which nothing is guaranteed, because like Call of Duty, you'd think Call of Duty every year would be amazing. Traditionally it hasn't been, and then Black Ops 7, it was just like, hey, we just made something terrible on purpose. Daniel, I hope Xbox doesn't go down the drain. I love Game Pass. Dude, I agree. I love Game Pass. I wish they would bring the price back down, But Game Pass is a great service. It's just, I don't want the hardware to go away. I like having an Xbox console, and I really hope the next hardware launch for Xbox is very successful. All right, what else do we have here? Was that it? No, it just jumped. All right, here we go. We jumped to the wrong thing. I don't know why, but we did. I thought this was interesting. 1/3 of surveyed U.S. games industry workers were laid off in the last 2 years, according to GDC reports. Executives who have never actually worked as a dev are pulling up the boards on their ships, throwing people overboard, and expecting these scuttled ghost ships to keep making them infinite money. Ain't that the truth? This is from Eurogamer. I gotta be careful with Eurogamer. Sometimes they word things weird. Agreed, very expensive. No, I agree. A report from GDC has shed a rather sobering light on the state of things, revealing that 1/3 of surveyed U.S. workers within the industry were laid off in the last 2 years. According to GDC's 2026 State of the Game Industry report, which included data provided by over 2,300 respondents, including developers, producers, marketers, executives, and investors, 33% of respondents in the U.S. had been laid off over the past 24 months. Looking further afield to include other countries as well, 28% of those surveyed from within the industry reported that they had been laid off in the same period, which is over a quarter of all respondents. It's very concerning. 17% of those surveyed, meanwhile, stated they had been laid off in the past 12 months. The total number of layoffs could be higher, though, as some may have experienced more than one layoff in the past 2 years, which would be rough. You go one place, and then you get laid off, and you're like, all right, fine, we'll start over somewhere else, and then you get laid off again, and you're like, what is happening to me? I would question a lot of things. Almost half the respondents, 48%, said they were still looking for employment after being laid off. Of those who were laid off 1 to 2 years ago, 36% said they still haven't found other games industry employment. So that's concerning. And a lot of it is, just everything's getting expensive. The numbers and growth that the games industry experienced during COVID didn't stick long term. A lot of people, we all had to go back to work. So all the time we had during COVID to play games and buy games and enjoy games ain't happening. And so those numbers were doomed to go back down to a normal level. And they really should be able to correct for that kind of thing. Because the 2020 and 2021 years were, and maybe some of 22. I don't really remember how long that lasted. I just know 2020 and 2021 were like the bigger stay at home, don't do anything, time periods for us. And that there's got to be a way to have corrected the numbers for that. That was a fluke. Well, not even a fluke. That was just a like probably once in a generation experience. I don't know. You think we would learn, and yet we haven't. But I thought it was interesting to point out 1/3 of the U.S. games industry was laid off in the last 2 years. That is awful. That is one of the biggest reasons I have not wanted to jump into the industry as a developer, because you're very replaceable. The churn is really high almost everywhere, and I don't know what I would contribute to the industry. I enjoy games, love playing games. I don't have any ideas, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time building out somebody else's idea just to get fired, after the game releases. All these successful releases over the last couple years to find out those teams are still laid off. What's the point? Never heard anything good about working in game dev. Same. It is honestly, it was a big driving factor for me choosing a major in college, only for it to not manifest the more I learned about the industry. And the more exposed we are to how the industry works, just from a professional standpoint, the job I have right now as a developer is fantastic. I would never want to trade it. The work isn't interesting. It's not like super high stakes stuff, but I like doing it. I like the people I work with. Some folks say it's fun, but ultimately it pays worse and is more unstable compared to other domains. Yes. And that's I think the big thing. Like, if you're going to spend time in the games industry, you better be pretty resilient and be able to market your skills pretty quickly, because I feel like at any point they could go, nah, we're pulling the plug on this project. You know, I think that's like the biggest bummer about learning about working in the games industry. Drove me away, you know, and I hate it. I really wanted to work in the industry and make games and contribute to projects and, you know, be just a part of something that I love from that perspective. Be able to create something that I've enjoyed for many, many years. But it's just not worth it. I'd rather do an indie approach, work on something on my own, than sit here and like spend time for a company just to get fired and don't even own the IP. You know, like, no, huge waste. All right, I think we have one more thing. Yeah, this will be an interesting thing because I haven't read the article yet. I really haven't seen anything on this. Google rolls out prototype of Project Genie, an AI tool which generates playable worlds. Google started rolling out access to a prototype version of Project Genie, an AI tool that lets players generate playable worlds. I don't know what this means. According to Google, users can create worlds either by typing in prompts or uploading images. They can then create their character in a similar way. Users can also define other properties, such as how the character moves or whether the world is explored in first person or third person. As players explore the world, the tool generates it in real time depending on the actions the player makes and where they move the camera. Users can also remix existing worlds by building on top of their prompts, changing the art style or characters. They can download videos of their created worlds to share online. Google warns Google warns that at this stage the prototype is limited in numerous ways. Generated worlds might not look completely true to life or always adhere closely to prompts or images or real world physics. It says while control latency is also likely. Players can also only export each world for 60 seconds. All right. The prototype is now available to Google AI Ultra subscribers in the US who pay $250 a month to access it. Who's paying $250 a month to access Gemini? Seriously? Some users have already started sharing videos of their creations on social media, some of which include copyrighted characters. So I kind of want to see what the trailer is, and then some of these generated projects are. Being hit with copy strikes already, I can feel it. Playable AI slop, no thanks. I agree, Daniel. I'm so tired of AI. These animations are funky. They make Google. I mean, yeah, they know how to make a video. They're up there with Apple on their like marketing videos. Wow, you get that detailed? Interesting. I want to be my cat. The cat simulator. No, I don't want to be myself in games. This definitely, well, that's what we're about to see. And apologies if it gets awkward, not safe for work, or just uncozy. We're just about to see. Okay. So, yes. All right, now, First of all, we can laugh because these people are spending $250 a month to access this. Whoever's generating the worlds. Second, there may be some awkward stuff in this article, and I just don't know. Neuralink powered metaverses are closer than we think. All right, so that's Shadow the Hedgehog running on a track. Cool. We don't have no money to waste that much of it and not care. Same, dude. Interesting. Okay. I'm gonna save Private Ryan. This one's got music. I feel like the radar in the left, the compass radar, is absolute nonsense. Alright, that's a little concerning. A mouse explores the kitchen in Genie 3. So, what is this? Ratatouille? Ratatouille simulator? I feel like the mouse is very large for a mouse. And it's more like a chinchilla. But interesting. Given the ongoing discourse surrounding the use of generative AI in video game development, is currently mainly focused on still images and other workflow processes. It seems likely that the introduction of Project Genie will only make the debate fiercer. Pro-AI enthusiasts have already started suggesting that should such a tool continue to evolve, it could reduce the need for game developers without noting its significant current limitations. Here's the copyright infringement we were looking for. It just created Breath of the Wild. Obviously, Nintendo should sue Google. How I Did It plus prompts in the comment. Min Choi over on X spends $250 a month to eliminate game developers. He's not a real gamer. He doesn't care about gaming. He just cares about AI slop. Just scoop it all up. Scoop it all up. All the slop. That's ridiculous, though. Very concerning. Google isn't the only company experimenting with using AI to make video games that play out in real time. Last year, Microsoft launched a version of Quake 2 powered entirely by generative AI, which is also gross, which was received negatively by many social media users. Microsoft has launched the Quake 2 demo, which can still be played via web browser on Microsoft's website to show off the capabilities of its video game generative model Muse, but insisted that it does not intend for this to fully replicate the actual experience of playing the original Quake 2. Some acknowledgement of the technical achievement behind the demo, many social media users reacted negatively. We made a program that vaguely and inaccurately imagines what it might look like if you were playing Quake 2 right now, one reply read. It requires all the same equipment you could instead use to actually play Quake 2, but requires 1 billion times more electricity. And I think that response, being the close of this article, is really the crux of it. This took tons of electricity and resources and water and a bunch of other, compute time to generate. And I don't think the cost is worth the results here, right? Like, this is just yuck, gross. I don't want to fool with this. In any case, I don't know that there's anything we can do to stop this kind of stuff from rolling out. There's not, I'm not going to convince a company that this could be a good prototyping tool, right? But is it efficient enough to justify? Like, again, this costs $250 a month to generate this right now, as of this video, as of this live stream. This little playable demo was $250. Is that worth it? I don't know. And that's where I'm going to leave the game news for today, because that was a lot. To be fair, we could just build a bunch of nuclear power. The energy consumption would be an issue. I completely agree with that. I wish that were the case. I really do wish that were the case. We should have been built out nuclear power. And contributes to the ever-rising prices of GPUs and RAM. Yuck. No, completely agree. Yes, 100%. Oh, man. But that's it for the game news today. Is there anything else we want to look at, want to talk about this morning? I was kind of in a rush to get things done and missed potentially a bunch of news. But so far, so good, right? Like I enjoyed talking. I hate talking about like the negative stuff, but it's got to be addressed, right? Everyone's afraid of nuclear power, though. They shouldn't be. We have to re-educate people because it's much tighter controls and regulated and safer than it ever has been before. It really is. I think that would be a big thing. I'm not an expert on the subject, but we definitely have improved, and the only reason Chernobyl happened the way it did was a like freak accident of failures, one after the other. You know, it wasn't like the thing was built intentionally unsafe. There was just a lot of things that happened incorrectly. Interesting. But anyway, all right, guys. Well, I will be on the gaming roundtable later today at noon time, so in about an hour and a half, noon Central Time. Japan did have that earthquake, but that area is already like recovering. It wasn't as bad as Chernobyl. You know, that area, like the radiation has let up. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it's safe. I'm saying things have improved much faster there because of how much safer modern reactors are. Denali, thanks for hanging out. Everybody, wherever you're watching from, thanks for hanging out. We have re-added a few platforms to the multi-stream. If you're watching on any of those extra platforms, thanks for being here. I've got to go to work now for a little bit, and then we'll be on the gaming roundtable at noon. I hope you're all looking forward to that. The podcast is such a fun time for me personally. I definitely feel like I don't belong there, just because everybody I'm doing the show with is much more of a better game news content creator, gaming creator than I'll ever be. But it's really humbling to be in company of such cool people. So with that, you guys have a great day. I love you. God bless. Have a great weekend. If I don't see you tonight, the Archipelago stream is going to be legitimately crazy. I've never done a randomized run of really any game except Pokemon Black 2 with Fedorable Will that one time. And I've never done like a challenge run or anything for Kingdom Hearts before. So Kingdom Hearts 2 randomized Archipelago. It's going to be crazy. Like, I'm just very excited to check it out. But with that, y'all have a great day. Should we find... Yeah, okay, we got to find somebody to raid. If we got more than one person watching, I want to raid out. That's generally the rule. If I see one person watching, I don't fool with the raid. But you guys are here, so we'll send you to somewhere else. Let's go to Ginger Prime. He's doing no rest for the wicked. And I'm going to remind him. Well, who else could we go to? We could go to Reforge. Bunch of new friends live this morning. Let's see. Who should? Yeah, we'll send it to Reforge. He's also doing game news, so you guys can go check out his. He does game news as well. He's a good dude. All right, there we go. I'm mishandling my responsibilities here. There we go. All right, y'all have a great day. Love you. Have a great weekend. If I don't see you tonight, it's gonna be a fun time. All right, bye.